Everyone's capable until proven otherwise, and people are allowed to live at risk. You know, if you have a cognitive impairment or you have a dementia, that does not mean that you're not capable. There are individuals who have memory issues, but they're still driving and they're still going on vacation, and they're leading really independent lives and are able to make lots of decisions. But it might be certain aspects that they really struggle with and do need that support. I think getting to know the person, and you might have to come back at different times of the day when you're doing that assessment, because it can really, really vary. There might be a window in the morning where somebody is really bright, and that's when they're at their best for decision making. And that might be when you have those conversations with them. I always think you're kind of looking at a bit of a percentage of what portion of the day are they alert and able to make decisions. And maybe that's when you have any sort of heavy going conversations with them, not going into their bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning with paperwork for them to sign, because you know that they're going to be sleeping and not able to understand what it is you're asking for. Again, taking into account things like medications. The hangover effect. Maybe the morning isn't the best time for them if they've been taking meds that make them feel groggy. So maybe for that person it might be an early afternoon is the best time to talk with them. Maybe they don't particularly feel safe being inside, and having a conversation with them outside is the best. Taking a walk with them, and that movement can sometimes be a really, really great way of engaging with them, gaining their trust so that you can have those frank conversations and really kind of get to know them and understand really what their values are, why they've made decisions in the past the way they have, and what their hopes are for the future, so that you can kind of align with them and scaffold really when they're making decisions so that they can actually achieve what they're hoping to achieve. Writing it down, large font, anything that you're planning on doing with the individual is making sure that they leave the meeting with a good, clear understanding of what's going to happen, so that they can think about it and then call you back later on and say, I didn't understand this, or I've changed my mind about this particular aspect, so that they're constantly informed throughout the process. I love family meetings. I find that to be some of the most helpful ways of exploring ideas and planning for the future, and making sure that everyone's on the same page, and recognizing that if somebody is struggling to retain the information when you're having those discussions, there's other people in the room who can make notes and remind them and support them down the road. I love my role because I get to be creative, and so I've done it in a number of different ways where I've actually created visual sort of storyboards and gone through with an individual, because again, you might have the visual impairment or you might have a hearing impairment, so you have to modify your environment to make sure that they can hear. The acoustics in a room might have a huge impact. It might be that you might have to take an iPad and write, and so you're back and forth passing notes to each other. It's, to me, just because somebody can't hear or may have difficulty speaking doesn't mean that they're not capable. So you really have to take those things into consideration, and you might just have to be a little bit more creative with how you would ask questions, how you would document the answers, because again, putting it into context for their literacy level, their education level. Do they understand, if you're reading a legal piece of paper to them, does the level that it's written at match their education level, or do you need to spend some time explaining what some of those individual words mean? And so just things like that you have to think about. I think one of the biggest challenges is time in the day. I think particularly with healthcare professionals, when we're on a tight schedule, and we become very task focused. And so that's where you'll see sometimes that they won't pause and ask the little decisions and allowing somebody to pick this top over that top. I think sometimes there's that it needs to be done and just move along and sort of just make the decision for them. And I think that can be really, really challenging, particularly in this climate where, there's a lot of staff shortages, people are burnt out post-COVID, is really just to kind of go, okay, I know that people are overwhelmed and busy, but this work is really, really important because if you spend that extra couple of seconds making those choices here, you might actually be reducing responsive behaviors that you might be experiencing later on in the day, because that person feels that they haven't got control. And so I was thinking of spend that little bit of time up front, because you'll probably get the benefits later on. And that rapport building, again, once, if you think about that therapeutic relationship with the nurse and patient, you can get so much done when that relationship is strong. And I will often sort of teach people, and it's all about approach. And if you spend that little bit of time communicating in a way that works for that individual, giving them time to respond, giving them choices, it really, really opens things up for that work to continue and be therapeutic down the road.